Thanks for joining. I heard there's some folks not here because of the Super Bowl, so I'll bring that up with them later about their priorities. But before I get going, I just want to thank first our front office staff, Wes Wilcox, you all know, Phil Jabor, Paul Johnson, our scouting and analytics crews for what really is months of work to go into the trade deadline. As always, feel prepared. Those guys do a great job, and really appreciate them. As you guys know, we're always active and trying to see what's out there, but weighing that against what we have already here. And obviously this year, after exploring those opportunities, we ended up keeping this group together. So, I think for us, we know the job's never done. We'll continue to vet those opportunities to, make our team better. But we're excited for what we got going forward. So, any questions? Go ahead.
What's up, sir? I just saw the release of Keon. Can you just kind of maybe describe or talk about just the growth you've seen from him and the decision to elevate him from a two-way player?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, testament to Keon and the work he's put in since being an undrafted player. But really our entire pipeline, started in the draft process where we identified him as a key target who went undrafted. Really credit to some of our analytics group in particular, Colin, Marshall, Zach did a great job to identify him. Then we goes to the G League, has a great year on his two-way contract last year. Our whole development team from Stockton to Sacramento, and then gets an opportunity at times this year and shows that he can hang in the NBA. So we're excited for Keon and what he's done and what he'll continue to do for us.
And then just kind of, going into a trade deadline and just the overall belief that you have in the continuity of this team and the rotation and this roster. Just overall thoughts, maybe just how this season has gone and maybe your thought process as you went into this deadline and then coming out of it without really making some significant move.
I think the biggest thing is we're always, almost all of our conversations are about, as we really prep for the deadline for months, is, okay, what will this do for our team counterbalanced against the cost versus what we can do with what we have already in-house. And I think I complimented our group. I said, we have a lot of good players. We're accomplishing a lot of good things. We obviously, our goals have not fully been reached, but we're in a good spot where we can have those conversations. Sometimes the conversations are much different about what you're trying to do. I think the West is hard. The West is tough. It's always tough. It's even tougher this year. I think we're on the same win pace as last year when we were the 3 seed, and now I think we're at 6 or 7 right now. So the West is going to be tough. We're going to have to earn it. We got 32, I think, games left. But if we didn't think that the 17 guys that we got here could get it done, that may have changed what we did. But these guys have shown, dating back to last year and this year, some growth, especially on the defensive end. I think it's been exciting for us. We know we got to improve the offense back closer to what it was last year. We do that, we think we make some noise, but we got some work to do because the West is tough. 1 to 12, 13 this year, and every game is going to be a dogfight.
Monty, you back here. I was late.
Man.
I was late. Your words, maintain and improve. We see the maintain. Do you see the improvement? And how much did that factor in when you were going into this trade deadline?
Yeah, good callback. I think, like I said, the defense, I do see the improvement, and we've done some really good stuff. I think Keegan in particular has taken a step on that end, but I think we're seeing also, this is, I think, maybe one of the benefits of that continuity, second year with Coach and his system. We certainly haven't brought it every night on the defensive end, but overall we've seen our rank improve. We've seen some really good performances. That said, we have not maintained our offense, and that's an issue. We got to get better on that end, because if we had maintained our offense and seen the defensive improvement, we'd be in a much different position. So we know those things, but yeah, I think the improvement has been a positive. Not being able to maintain some other aspects is something that we continue to work on and need to get better at.
And I guess follow up, you guys have, if you make the playoffs, your 2024 gets sent to Atlanta. How much did that play into your mind at this deadline that starting July 1st, you might have 7 first-round picks and sort of your arsenal, your stockpile back?
Yeah, well, it would be 6, because that one would be gone, which would be a good thing. But yeah, we look. I think we've done. Our group has done a good job of using assets when the time comes, but also weighing that against what we can maybe do with them in the future. So, like you say, we'll have a little bit more flexibility with those first-round picks, hopefully this summer. That's something we'll continue to pursue. But I think we also, those picks, whether they can be in trade, but they can also be to continue to supplement what we hope is, a team that the core is here to go into the second round and further, and then those picks can be used to continue to keep the train rolling. Because it's, we know with some of the changes in the CBA and things like that, it's going to be, you got to maintain, your flexibility and ability to do those things because of how hard it is to operate in certain areas of the cap now.
Hey, Monty, 2 things for you. Obviously, ups and downs are going to be a part of any NBA season, but what have you made of the inconsistencies and those popping up maybe more than you would like throughout the course of this season?
Yeah, I think if we were more consistent, we would be further up the standings, for sure. I think the positive to take from it is for every, loss that doesn't feel good, that means we've also had some pretty good wins if we're still on the same pace. I think we're 12-8 against the top 10, these playoff play-in teams in the West, so that's shown that we can do it. But the NBA these days, I mean, it is, there are, some of the records maybe aren't there for teams, but there's no nights off. We can't take nights off if we want to get what we want to get. And at the same time, we've shown that we can go into some of these on the road in tough places and win. So we know we can reach those heights, which is good to see, because those are the teams that are going to be there, hopefully, with us in April, May, and June. So it's disappointing, of course, that we can't seem to do it every single night. Last year, I think we did a great job. I think after our initial start to the season, I don't think we lost more than 2 games for the bulk of the year in a row. We were able to ride it. This year we've had maybe some more ups and downs, but it means we've had some ups. If we can continue, like to the question that James asked, we can keep our defense there, offense can improve. Same thing with our record. If we can, bring it a little more consistently, and match those highs, we can contend with those teams that have, kind of separated themselves from us in the standing. That's where we want to get to.
And then in the process of building an eventual contender, what do you feel like is the important things to attempt to accomplish and try to move forward with this season?
Well, a big one is our defense, and Coach Brown has harped on that. We know we got to win the 82 games in the regular season for sure, and the West is going to be tough. And right now I think we're not even in the playoffs. I think we're 7th by tiebreaker or something. But so, we know we want to get into the top 6 first, and then hopefully into the top 4 for home court. At the same time, when you get to the playoffs, it's a different game, which we saw last year. I think it's great for our guys to have that experience. We know defensively, I think we did a good job against Golden State, relatively speaking, stepping up our game. That's carried over to this year, but we also, the offenses are only getting better. I don't even know what it is. I think the league's up 2 points as a whole. So I think we're similar to where we were last year, but that's not, the rank's not there because everybody else is getting better and catching up to what maybe we did last year. So we got to find ways to improve. We got a target on our back. Teams are going to continue to guard us, in ways that they see work. In other ways, we're going to have to adjust and get better. But we get that back up into the, top 10, top 5. With our defensive improvement, that's how we can make some noise.
Got 2 quick. You mentioned the offense a few times. What specifically do you think you need to improve offensively? Where do you see the issues?
I think one big one is our pace. We were pretty clear number 1 last year. This year, we've had some really good moments. We all know what DeAaron can do. But we just gotta be more consistent that's one where we can impose our will and where our defense should help us. We're number one in defensive rebounding, right? But we gotta run off those. We gotta be better there. That's a big one. And I think the rest just gets back to the consistency of, we've had some highs, we just haven't done it night in, night out like maybe we did last year. But I think we've seen some really good improvements. We've been a little better. Our shooting in particular has come back. But I think the pace is the number one thing I would point to because that is in our control more than shot making or things like that.
Kind of a broader league-wide trade deadline question, but how have you seen the dynamics of the market shift now to Playin, maybe the second apron, the new CBA this year? And did you feel like it was maybe an overpriced market for buyers?
Yeah, I think the Playin for sure has, I think, given teams more things to work towards, not just to make the Playin, but it's different to be 7-8 versus 9-10. You get 2 chances instead of 1. It's really important to get in the top 6 where now you're in. So all those things, it used to just be in or out and then maybe home court. So that just gives teams more things where they can't just rest. Everybody's trying to improve. I think some of the new cap stuff, teams were still figuring out how that's going to affect team building, not just now, but into the future. This has kind of been a transition year based on the new CBA. I think it's good for the league. Most teams are trying to win and compete and get better. It maybe means some of those more traditional straight seller trades aren't there. But we still saw some movement around the leagues. Different teams felt they needed to do something. I think for us, we're always trying to put ourselves in a spot where we're never pressed into something and we get to do it on our own terms. And credit to our medical staff. Again, we haven't been as healthy as last year, but pretty healthy. Our main guys are producing. It's just, we think we got enough in-house. And I don't know, it's hard to, without sitting back, I did get some sleep last night, but I haven't really taken a step back and seen what the league, has done market-wise. But it does seem like there's been just fewer of those straight sellers, more teams just trying to improve however they can.
Hi, Monty. A couple questions for you. One, you've talked about the offense-defense thing. Obviously, there's, I'm sure, healthy debate like within every organization. Mike has really pressed for the defensive improvement, saying that to have postseason success, you've got to be, I think in his mind, top 10 defensively. Are you guys 100% on the same page with that part of it, or is there, maybe some give and take in terms of that discussion?
I think we all know we got to be better on both ends because we're not where we need to be. But I think, the defense was the easiest thing for us to improve. As we mentioned, we wanted to maintain our offense to get there. And right now our offense has slipped as our defense has improved, and we're in a similar spot, I think maybe the same record to this point as last year. But I think the biggest thing for us is that at the end of the night, we got to have more points than the other team. And especially in the playoffs, you're going to have to go and stop some really, really tough players. I mean, just look up and down the West. I mean, it doesn't matter who you play. You're going to have multi-time All-Stars, All-NBA guys, future Hall of Famers that you're going to have to stop. So, we got to learn to do that because when April and May come, we got to do that. At the same time, we got to figure out, a way to score because in this league, I mean, it's taken 110, 120, 130 to win. So, we got to do both because we can't have a good defensive performance go to waste because we can't score enough. So, it's always a two-way street. I do think the easiest thing that we've seen in the past is to be top 10 offense, defense. That usually gets you in a pretty good spot. But, we saw Denver last year win the title without a top 10 defense. So, if you can be special enough on one end, Boston, way back when I started in the league, won it without, I think, a top 10 offense with a really good defense. So both can work. We just got to figure out a way to, for us to get out of the 5, 6, 7 grouping, and if we can do both, we can get into that top 4.
Okay. And you look around the league and how a lot of teams are built right now. I guess this is kind of two-pronged, but do you Do you see a need for size and length as you guys build this going forward to add those elements? And if you don't, if you're willing to kind of characterize like how close maybe you felt on you know, some of these deals that maybe you discussed with people, did you feel like something was close?
I would say the biggest thing for us, for sure, I think if we can add size and length, you know, that can make sense for our team. At the same time, we have to balance that with what we know has worked for us offensively, and we know you need shooting and spacing in this league, and so we can't sacrifice too much of something like that, for instance, to add that. So, you know, it's trying to really find two-way guys that can play on offense, guys that can play on defense, and I think Mike's done a great job getting the most out of guys on both ends and getting guys there, but we just don't want to solve one problem by you know, kind of pulling our finger out of another problem. So we got to find guys that can fit into what Jay and Mike and the offense are trying to do, while at the same time, you know, we got to find guys that can match up with these guys, you know, up and down the West. So yeah, I don't want to get too much into the rumors and all that was out there. We were active. We were trying to see what was out there. If there was something that we thought could improve us for a price we're willing to pay, of course we'll do that. At the same time, you know, we've seen, I mentioned Keegan, internal growth on that size and length thing. I mean, Keegan's guarded some really impressive players and done, I think, a great job. HB obviously draws the tough assignment a lot of times. Trey Lyles has guarded some of the big power forwards that you got to go against. So we have guys that can do it, and I think we've seen that on the defensive end. But yeah, we don't want to just solve one problem by hurting somewhere else.
Monty, you guys are 22nd, I think, in the league in payroll. Is that a function of just where you guys are in your build? Is it a function of maybe looking forward to some of the contracts that you're going to have to pay, whether it be Keegan or DeAaron down the road? And do you have, I don't know if it's a blank check, but you have the ability to go out and make moves at this deadline and during the summer that maybe would bump you up into closer to the top 10 in salary in the league? Yeah,
that hasn't, you know, the payroll or whatever hasn't been an issue. I think this year it was a function of what we did in the off season, where we were a room team and how we were able to operate in that. We talked about the things we were able to accomplish there, and there's ways to get a little higher up. You know, it used to be you use room, you can't get much ahead. This year we were able to pop over with you know, Trey Lyles' bird rights and the room MLE and things like that. But that was more of a function of that. I do think, you know, the higher you get, it's really going to start handcuffing your ability to just maneuver, and there are some very draconian things that the tax and the aprons will limit you on. So, you know, for us, it's making sure that, look, if there's something that we can do that puts us, you know, into contention and it, you know, costs assets, adds money, you know, we're able to do that. We just got to be able to then maintain that. And, you know, it's, I think, gone are the days of, you know, you're just able to, you know, kind of live wherever you want and do everything you want. As a, you know, the trades, they start freezing your picks. You know, all sorts of things happen that are just going to make it hard to stay there. So for us, we want to be there for a long time. So we also want to win in the playoffs soon. So we're always counterbalancing those things. But I do think the new rules are going to make it so, you know, if you put yourself in a tough spot and you don't reach where you want to get to, it's going to be hard to take that next step. And if you do reach it, it may be hard to maintain it. So we're always, you know, these days trying to figure out that balance.
I imagine you feel you have a pretty good idea of what this team is, or you know, characteristics and what they're capable of. I'm just curious, like, what are you still curious about, if anything, with this roster, and maybe one or two question marks you might have with this group?
Looking ahead, I'm curious how our, you know, last year we talked about, I think we had 7-8 guys make their playoff debuts. This year, that's not going to be the case. We just went and, you know, played a tough 7-game series, so even our newbies have been in that environment now. So I'm curious to see how the group will respond. At the same time, we got to get there. You know, I think I'm curious to see if our group can step up and, you know, continue to the defensive improvement and get back to offensively where we want to get to. You know, we've seen certainly last year for most of the season, especially at the end, we had a great kick. Can we do the same thing this year? So we've certainly answered some more questions about our team. We've seen them grow together, but still plenty unanswered. And you know, but I think exciting because of some of the things that they've been able to do, like gain that playoff experience, and now see how it is to have a target on your back.
With Fox's growth this year, where's your confidence level at in him potentially being a number one on a championship team, and how important is it to have that for long-term construction?
I'll say, despite what was voted in, I think we have 2 All-Stars pretty clearly. You know, DeAaron and Domas have been fantastic. You know, at the same time, everybody, until you do it in the playoffs, that's the ultimate litmus test for a lot of guys. But you know, what DeAaron and Domas have shown, you know, last year through the regular season into the playoffs, and now this year, you know, I think those guys can be the focal points of the foundation of what takes us to where we want to go. You know, I think we have other guys that continue to step up and grow as well, and that's going to be a big part of it because, you know, I think the way that the playoffs are these days, you need to be able to put 5 guys out there at all times. Certainly your top guys are going to be called upon more often, but it's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 all the way down because matchups and what defenses dictate you do offensively, and how, you know, with switching and those things, like it's no longer where 1 or 2 guys do everything. So those guys, they're going to carry their weight, and they've done so. We're going to need the rest of the guys to continue to step up also.
Monty, you touched on the CBA and how you can get handcuffed under some of these new provisions. Is there some opportunity here for you guys, given where you're at in your build relative to other teams that might already be looking at kind of that handcuff situation, given, you know, kind of the way their salaries and everything else is built already?
Yeah, we hope so. You know, I think that's you know, one thing that we're always looking at, because opportunity now versus opportunity in the future, and you know, as teams become, you know, less flexible and more restricted by those things, that could be opportunity for us to you know, to add things or be in a position where other teams cannot do things that we can do. So you know, I think so. I hope so. And you know, that's, as we continue to learn and figure out what this new CBA is going to look like, I do think we're right now in a pretty good position to take advantage of a lot of those things and improve this thing as we're, you know, again, I want to be here for many years, where we're fighting in the West to win multiple rounds, and to do that we have to balance improving now and of course the future.
Speaking broadly, I guess, of course, you've been, you know, trying to improve this team since going back to the summer. When it comes down to draft day, or excuse me, to trade deadline, was there much movement that surprised you, didn't surprise you? I mean, did that day happen about as across the league about as well as you expected?
Yeah, credit to our group. I think our information is good. We know what the opportunities are, generally what the costs will be, really well before deadline day, the final day. But it's, you know, the exact details maybe obviously aren't known, but we have a very good sense. This is, you know, as we kind of got closer and closer, was about what we expected. And you know, obviously, you know, for us, at the end of the day, we chose mostly to stand pat, but you know, we knew what was out there, and Wes and Phil, Paul, our whole group, we're doing a good job of talking to teams and trying to figure out what's going on and where opportunities may lie.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.